Are we good?
Sure. Let's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we recording?
Yeah, the screen's recording already.
Cool.
It's been recording the whole time, including audio.
Thank God. Okay. Hi, everybody. This is why Gen 5 isn't Pokemon. We are the foundation for the preservation of Gen 1 Pokemon.
You
I'm
should
Max.
follow us on Twitter at 5thgen.pkm, and I'm Clayton, by the way.
If you don't follow us on Twitter, we're not going to give the panel. So someone pull out their phone right now.
I already followed you.
Thank you. Okay, we're good.
My Twitter
Good
is
job.
suspended, so I can't follow you yet.
Don't follow me in that case.
This panel is also called Gen 1, a critique of the creatures introduced in the 5th generation Pokemon games.
If you're all about that shit posting, which we all are, make Pokemon great again.
Mappa.
It doesn't work when we don't have it. Yeah! Okay. So the first thing we need to do is go over what you do and do not know about Pokemon.
We're going to have a bit of a quiz to test your knowledge of what is and isn't a Pokemon. We really need to know what we have to work with here. So first up, is this a Pokemon? Raise your hand if you think it is. Keep it down if you don't think it's a Pokemon. This should be easy. All of you with your hand down.
3 people
you
have
have
their
one
hands
strike.
down, so like 2, so you guys can leave now.
But of course, this is a Pokemon. This is Machamp, the OG Stage 3 fighting type. You know it and you love it. It's not controversial. It shouldn't be.
Now, here's the next one. Is this a Pokemon?
Raise your hand if you think it is. Keep it down if you disagree with that assertion.
Ooh.
Fewer hands up. I like that because you, with your hands down, are actually correct.
Not a Pokemon. It's from Gen 5.
We're actually not allowed to speak this Pokemon's name because we're not allowed to swear much.
This is kind of for fucking children, okay? So no saying whatever the fuck that's called. We're calling it Girder thing.
Yeah, that's the approved name. Next up, is this a Pokemon? Believe it or not, this Pokemon is illegal in the state of California. What were you gonna say?
Only if the police actually do their job.
I was gonna say, weirdly enough, you find a lot of supplies for this Pokemon at all the pet shops around.
As a note, I just lived in Colorado. It was really jarring going there and going to a Petco and being, whoa, fuck, I can get a Furret here. Like, just in the pet store, you just walk in, hey, cool Furrets.
I know like 5 people who own Furrets. I know 5 people who own Furrets. So clearly, it's not really that enforced.
So, yeah, no, of course it isn't.
Do you own furries?
Furries technically aren't people, so yes. You can own furries. You seem excited about that as if you already have a few in your basement and can finally let them out.
Well, I don't have a basement.
They're not people, they don't need sunlight. Okay, next, is this a Pokemon? Fucking 3 of you got it right. This is Shrimpstonepora. He is an official leak from Gen 9. Now, I know you're saying, why are they leaking Gen 9 Pokemon if 8's not even out yet? Well, Shrimpstonepora was actually announced back in the 90s. And they've just been waiting a while for everyone else to really be ready for it.
I am excited that they're finally giving some more representation to the water fighting type, as there is only one Pokemon in that type right now, and they really need to add a second for finally. And of course, lastly, is this a Pokemon? You're all wrong. This is, of course, Emboar, the least creative Gen 5 Pokemon, which we'll get into later. But before we advance any further, we're going to go over some tips to allow you to safely research Gen 5. In case you're not aware, OSHA has recently reclassified Gen 5 as a workplace safety hazard. So in order for them to allow us to make this panel, we are required to go over this information with you.
We came from vacation to give this. Like, we were on break. We were summoned to tell all of you. So do we even have to listen to OSHA?
No.
I mean, we shouldn't.
I mean,
we're a low-informed Team Rocket.
We don't care about the rules.
But let's we got to cross our I's and dot our T's, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So first way you can research Gen 5 safely is to just not. But clearly we didn't do that, or maybe we did if you watch more of this panel. You could incorrectly think that Gen 5 is okay because you're 5 years old and Gen 5 was your first Pokemon generation. So you don't know any better, in which case, I'm sorry you have to spend the rest of your life as yourself. That sounds miserable. You could take your nostalgia glasses.
Now, I don't know about you, but I got my nostalgia goggles surgically implanted back in 2004. So that's physically impossible. And honestly, you're at an anime convention. You are adults at a convention about cartoons.
For children.
So,
Not the ones I watch.
yours are here too. Yeah, but we don't want to go over your hentai list. Okay?
Keep your internet
Keep
browsing
that
history to
for
yourself.
yourself. And the men in suits outside.
Lastly, of course, you can use a word replacer, a handy-dandy browser extension that lets you take one combination of words and phrases and turn it into something else. For example...
That's what we did. So here we have Trubbish. Trubbish is a fucking abomination. He is the trash bag abomination, compared to Kling Clang, which is a dumpster fire, from Bulbapedia, the community-driven dumpster fire encyclopedia. And the third one, this one's going to be the biggest. So as a warning, this one's definitely not safe for work. If there are any cloppers in the audience, please keep your hands up at all times. This is a wild ride. This is Keldeo. Keldeo's a fucking brony. If this is doing anything for you, as previously mentioned, we do have men outside in suits. So if you could just go out there, give them your name, age, address, internet browsing history, and they will very kindly do what we should have done long ago by taking you to Guantanamo Bay.
Well, let's move on to some actual mechanical complaints we have in Generation 5, I think. I think that would be prudent.
So we're going to talk about combat. It's a good gift. I love it.
It's a great gift.
Have we looped it yet? Okay, good. So Gen 1 invented combat for Pokemon, but not just for Pokemon, and not just turn-based combat, because we all know Final Fantasy is a lie created by the Illuminati. It invented the concept of combat full stop. Before Pokemon Red Blue came out, people never disagreed. They never went to war. The world was just full of fucking hippies. It was terrible. Then Gen 1 comes out, and this guy gets to have the best time of his life. So in addition to war, it also created the whole color conflict for color coding conflicts. So we all remember WE 2K18 Elmo v Cookie Monster.
I watched it on pay-per-view. Totally worth $500.
Yeah, I know, right? Fucking when fucking Cookie Monster suplexed Elmo, that was the best. Yeah. Kicked his ass. So not only is it used for just noted wrestling heroes, but the colors, especially red and blue, are used to represent even political divisions. So here we have a map of the most recent EU election. Red and blue are used to represent the mainstream parties, in this case the center right and the center left. Yellow is used to represent the moderates that nobody votes for, Pokemon Yellow. Green is used to represent the Green Party, the regionalists, those people who fucking watch anime without subtitles in Japanese, even though they don't know Japanese. Yeah, those assholes. So that's green. But then this is where Gen 5 Black and White comes in, because black is the color used to represent the far-right fascist parties, and is voted for exclusively by white people.
Yeah, it's a travesty.
But they announced that they figured it out. Gen 1, mission accomplished. We finished combat. But of course, like any good war, it's not over when we say it is. So we got new Pokemon games with new mechanics that are all worse.
There's too much money to make from your parents by stealing money from your mom's purse to go buy the new plushie of
George W. Bush.
The George W. Bush Pokemon they're adding in Gen 8.
I keep forgetting the slides in here.
But while Generation 1 introduced the concepts that are core to the Pokemon genre to this day, Generation 2 perfected them. Think of Generation 2 as the Brood War to StarCraft, to Gen 1 StarCraft remastered. It took the mechanics that were introduced in the original Pokemon and made it into a much more fleshed out, rounded out experience. Gen 2 added such mechanics such as weather, entry hazards, held items, and also split the special stat into special defense. Poor Gyarados got kind of screwed over by that, unfortunately.
friend zoned.
Got friend zoned by Milotic. Not the greatest. But Generation 2 also introduced 2 new types of Pokemon. The Dark and Steel types. And
next we had Gen 3. Gen 3 is when they decided that they really wanted to appeal to the OCD demographic. So that's when we started getting things like natures, abilities, and EVs. That way suddenly to have a good Pokemon, it would take you literally hundreds of hours. And you would much better use that time doing literally anything else, like learning HTML. That's useless still,
or
right?
maybe playing Generation 4, which introduced mostly 2 large new mechanics. They split up there's the physical special split, which is basically the point in time at which whether an attack was characterized as physical or special did not count on the type of the attack, but rather the attack itself. So, for example, Fire Punch and Flamethrower are both fire moves, but Fire Punch was reclassified as being a physical attack because, I mean, you're punching things and all that. Flamethrower is a special attack. But even that pales in comparison to the other major generation introduced in Generation 4, Stealth Rock.
Woo! Yeah!
Woo! Shut the fuck up!
Don't get me started on Stealth Rock.
You were cool.
Best mechanic.
Break up with him. Are you okay?
I'm sorry.
Do you want to move on to the next generation?
It's okay to cry.
Stealth
Okay.
Rock triggers me.
Okay, so here's everything Gen 5 introduced to the competitive meta. You're welcome.
Gen 6 introduced Mega Evolutions, which of course inspired the hit anime Digimon, which came out recently, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
last
great.
year.
Last year, pretty much.
And then Gen 7, of course, invented Smash Balls.
Dude,
and
Lucas's final Smash is the worst.
Yeah, I
hate
can't
it.
dodge that shit. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
But our next mechanical concern we have about Generation 5 is min-maxing, which is, of course, which, if you're not familiar with min-maxing from RPG settings, min-maxing is basically where you take a character's stat spread, you minimize the stats that don't matter, and you maximize the stats that do to optimize your competitive efficiency. And one of our primary complaints with Generation 5 is Generation 5 min-maxed their new Pokemon design stats to an extent not seen in previous generations. A great example we can bring up is Golem on the left, OG third stage rock type from Gen 1, and whatever the fuck this thing is on the right, Nanolith,
Yeah,
I think its name
Nanolith.
is. Yeah, they're both third stage rock types, and they're both bulky, slow physical attackers. But you may notice that while Golem has, high attack, high defense, Nanolith has more HP, more attack, same defense, more special defense. Basically strictly better than Golem. There's no reason to use Golem when you have Nanolith available from a competitive sense. Yes, it has lower speed, but Golem's already about as fast as a golf cart with 4 flat tires. You're not going to be outrunning anything with a Golem anyway, so you might as well dump its speed stat to heck, just so you can get the better stats that actually matter and actually KO the thing that is going to attack you next turn. Next up, we have Deer Thing and Other Deer Thing. While Other Deer Thing doesn't really know what it wants out of life, it's trying to explore itself, find out what its true passion is. Other Deer Thing is like, no, I'm going to be a special physical attacker. I'm going to have more speed, more attack, and also in the generation that I'm introduced in, I'm going to have a unique attack that just happens to fit in perfectly with my preferred playstyle. Whereas, I don't know, Stantler has Hypnosis and what looks like a tumor growing out of its butt. Yeah, it's not looking good for Stantler. I feel sorry for it. Everyone donate to Relay for Life so we can help Stantler with his butt cancer. That'd be great.
And nose cancer, too.
Yeah.
He's just
And
got a lot going. And horn cancer.
horn cancer, yeah. Look at those tumors.
I think he fell in some radioactive acid trying to get superpowers.
Not as big as
To
this
be
tumor,
fucking,
but
like,
you know.
relevant.
And lastly, my personal favorite. We have Machamp and Girder Thing, as mentioned previously, and we have a similar case here as we did with Golem and Nanolith. We have 2 bulky physical attackers who both happen to be third stage fighting types that evolve via trading. The only difference being that this one's just better. It has more attack, more defense, more HP. It's slower, but again, golf cart with 4 flat tires, golf cart with 2 flat tires and a patch, whatever. The one thing Machamp is better at is Choice Specs Fire Blast builds. But if you're running that, A, add me on Pokemon Showdown so we can do stupid Pokemon battles together. That's way more fun than actually battling. And 2, you're not going to win any tournaments. I'm really sorry to say that, but yeah.
So another problem we had with the min-maxing optimization thing. In most Pokemon games, a point of a stat doesn't matter too much except in niche instances with like attack or defense or HP. There are very few instances where having 103 instead of 104 is going to matter. That is not the same with speed. So here we have some Pokemon with 100 speed, and here we have some Pokemon with 101 speed. And because speed is a winner-take-all stat, these Pokemon will always go first no matter what. And that fucking matters. And shockingly, these are all from Gen 5. And these nice, pretty boys with the 100 stat, you know, because speed normally ends in 5s or 0s, they're from Gen 1. Which, as we all know, is something that has never happened in the games until Gen 5. Never, ever, ever.
Not even once, man. Never
Fuck
happened.
you.
Hey, man, Gyarados is having a hard enough day getting friend zoned by Milotic, man.
Pokemon back. I need to throw it at the audience later.
Sounds good. All right, you're going to catch him?
Yeah.
Good.
Uh-oh.
Sounds good.
The worst one of you.
Catches
And then I'm going to grind you up for candy.
Sounds good. Speed creep also fits into a larger category we like to refer to as power creep. For those of you familiar with collectible card games, power creep is basically the introduction of gradually more powerful options as the series continues, as a means of incentivizing you to stay with the product and buy new ones. Pokemon's been basically doing the same thing. With these 3 Pokemon we have up here, or not Pokemon because they're not Pokemon, illustrating excellent examples of this. This one on the left is basically just used as the sole reason why we need Stealth Rock to exist, which is terrible and it should be deleted from the game. The middle one is just a stupid, like, I don't know, armadillo thing, and somehow has a higher attack stat than Dragonite, which makes no sense at all. Dragonite. And,
Yeah, I'm upset. Oh yeah, I was supposed to complain. Why the fuck is an armadillo with drills stronger than Barney with wings? That's not right. Dragonite with 134 base attack should have the highest base attack in the fucking game. But no, let's give it to something I could run over and kill with my car. Fuck that.
It's not as high as this one, which has a base stat total of 400, which is kind of meh as far as base stat totals go. But it still has 140 attack, and the largest gulf between an attack and special attack stat that I've seen in Pokemon outside of maybe Mega Beedrill, which was explicitly designed as a way to go out of their way to make Beedrill usable. So that tells you something when this random thing that you find, and it's hideous, but we'll get to hideous aesthetic design later. I'm just kind of pissed off. Max, can you take over again?
Yeah, okay. So the other problem with this was the dragon-dominated metagame. So here we have a graph, percentage of Smogon O-year tiers with dragon typing. In Gen 3, it's about 7-8. Gen 4, it's about 6-7%, which is what you'd expect in a game that has 17 different types. That's pretty equal representation. And Gen 5 sat there, you know what the problem with Gen 4 was? There were slightly less dragons. Let's double it. And add some more. So Gen 5 just showed up and went, everything's a dragon. You get to be a dragon. You get to be a dragon. You get a free car. And then everything was dragons, and it fucked up the meta, and it was so bad that Gen 6 had to introduce a new type of Pokemon just to fix it. And it really upset Mike Pence.
He still hasn't gotten over it.
You know, the good thing is Gen 6 is now running for president. Pete's pretty cool.
I think Pence was really upset when he found out that electric wasn't super effective against fairies.
Yeah. He keeps trying. It's never going to work.
It's never going to work.
Some say he's still fighting to this day.
Next up we have aesthetics. So aesthetics may not seem as important as mechanics because again, the main
Just come in the room, it's fun.
We don't bite much.
Much.
Fuck you.
So aesthetics don't matter. So some people may think that aesthetics don't matter as much with respect to your enjoyment of a video game, but that's not true. Aesthetic design can make or break the difference between something that's endearing and people love and something horrifying that makes me want to gouge my damn eyes out. Seriously, this is not okay.
That's the first OC in the Sonic the Hedgehog universe, which is Sonic the Hedgehog.
I see that in my nightmares.
You just
not
made
alone.
movie Sonic sad. How does that make you feel?
Good.
That's good. That's the correct response. We have similar gulfs in the creativity and just aesthetic value of the visual design of Pokemon between Generation 1 and 5. Probably best exemplified by the paired fighting types from Generation 1 and 5. From Gen 5, we have, I think it's Blue Thing and Red Thing are their actual names.
Yeah.
Bert and Ernie.
Officially, it's Blue Thing and Red Pill.
Oh, Blue Thing and Red Pill. Got it.
Don't use a red pill.
They're all wearing judo suits for some reason. You can't really tell them apart. As opposed to the two paired fighting types from Gen 1, which were named after such esteemed legends as famous Japanese martial artist Jackie Chan, who invented archaeology, goes around the world digging up ancient artifacts, defeating the forces of evil, and providing important moral lessons for the children. Or Hitmonlee, named after the famed Bruce Lee, seen here beating up dead internet meme Chuck Norris. And both of these are valid things to draw inspiration from, as opposed to Blue Thing, which I think is named after that thing you peel off your shoe at the end or after your foot when you're done going to the gym.
I don't know. It looks pretty good with sandals.
I'm gonna have to make you take those off after this.
It's cute.
It's good for the panel, but not for IRL. Or Red Thing, which is named after what Andy Samberg is doing in this Lowly Island video, with special guest appearance from Missing No.
Now that we've gone over where they shat on the legacy of Gen 1 Pokemon, now we're just going to go where instead of actually creating new things, they just paid a drunk 5-year-old to trace them. So here we have Tentacruel and Tentacruel's after a visit to Dunkin' Donuts. We have Golbat and Golbat after someone told him he loved him. And Clefable and an aborted Clefable. So not only are the aesthetic designs here the same goddamn thing, but the Pokemon, for the most part, serve the same role in combat. Special tank, special tank. Quick sweeper that evolves through friendship, quick sweeper that evolves through friendship. Okay, that's shit, that's different. But they're still like support healers. And then we have just the objectively shittiest ones, starting, of course, with the literal pile of garbage that, let's be honest, probably has bags of shit in it. First off, it has a gas pump as an arm, so we know it's a Republican. Second, I don't know if those are pipes or cigarette butts, but I did add a fourth one because every time I look at one of these, I want to take up smoking, so I will die faster. And then I put the cigarette out right on its hand.
Next
And
up,
then it moves it. I'm like, shit, I gave it more power.
speaking of power, though, here we have a pile of gears, which...
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear!
A weapon. It's a weapon that's a fast to Metal Gear.
Metal Gear launches nukes.
No, it's not. It's from Gen 5.
It's also pointless, because the entire purpose of
There's things you
gears
can sit down.
is to transfer mechanical energy between two
Got 'em.
objects. And the problem here is that these are just disembodied gears not connected to anything. So they're totally useless, but that's in fitting with the theme of Gen 5, so I guess that's appropriate in that sense.
Okay, I have 3 issues with this. First off, I know that we're all nostalgic for the N64, but I think we can all collectively admit that even with the goggles that we surgically implanted on, the N64 controller is garbage. So why did they design it after an N64 controller? Are they trying to get nostalgia points off this? Fuck them. Point 2, that's not how you make ice cream. If you are going to scoop 2 scoops of ice cream, you take the cone, you put one, and you put the other. You don't put one, tilt it, put the other, and hope gravity magically doesn't work on cow milk. Point 3, it's vaping. I didn't know Nintendo was owned by Big Vape. They are promoting a sick, dangerous practice among our youth. So that means anyone you see who vapes likes Gen 5. If you wanted more reasons to fucking hate them.
Speaking of promoting sick and dangerous practices among our youth, this is the creature that's only considered a Pokemon in the state of Oklahoma. And had they made the game in Oklahoma, they would have made them finish it. I think that's about all we have. But this is compared with luxurious pinnacles of great aesthetic design from Generation 1. And I know what you guys are all going to say right now. We've literally picked the worst designs of Generation 1 Pokemon to try and defend it with. To which I had to say, you're wrong, because these are actually all excellent, inspired designs. Starting with Poland over here. Oh, okay, I just thought you were doing things. Okay, speaking of Poland over here, people say that it just looks like a Pokeball, and that's not particularly interesting, so Voltorb sucks. But in reality, it's actually paying homage to the concept of a mimic from Dungeons & Dragons or similar fantasy settings. The classic treasure parcel that turns out to not be treasure, it actually just wants to eat your hands. Or in this case, blow up in your face and ruin all of your hopes and dreams. It's rather creative, IMO, but you guys wouldn't know anything about that. You like Gen 5. Next up, we have Mr. Mime, who we were going to talk about in more detail, but given some recent Me Too allegations he's dealing with, we're going to have to move on from that. The only thing we're going to point out is he is actually better at making walls than Donald Trump. Which in our case is actually a good thing, because it means we don't have a wall yet. And last but not least, we of course have Muck, which people like to badmouth as just being a blob, and that's uninteresting. But think about it. Generation 1 was the first generation of Pokemon. Shocking, I know, but it matters, because given that it was the first generation, they had to create Pokemon that could set the stage for the archetypes that would define the types that these Pokemon were assigned. Charizard, the fire-breathing dragon, of course, does not represent the dragon type at all, but represents the fire type. And we have Muck over here, the pile of sludge, sludge being commonly associated with poison. It makes a perfect archetypal poison type. It also kind of plays homage to oozes and, I don't know, Hedora and the Blob, other just sludge monsters in media.
Also, its name spelled backwards is...
No.
Cobra!
Okay. So... next, we're going to go over what is the laziest fucking thing Gen 5 did, which is, of course, Emboar. Sorry, that's Hariyama. It's another sumo wrestler Pokemon, I get it. No way they'd repeat things like that. It's
firefighting, not fighting types.
Okay, Emboar. Okay, they didn't do a lot of firefighting types.
No. They did like one or two.
We shouldn't have this problem again. Emboar.
I think we are going to have this problem.
These lazy motherfuckers. Emboar. Clayton.
So that was meant for later tonight. I was drunk making the slideshow last night. I have no idea how this got in here. Let's just pretend nobody's...
It's Mr. Popo.
Yeah.
Emboar.
Emboar. Okay. So Emboar is a derivative design because we've already had fucking sumo wrestler. It's firefighting because we did that again. I think, honestly, at this point, the people failed to realize that fire and fighting were different types when they were making the games. And when it came to Gen 6 and they gave us Fire Psychic, it was actually a coding error. They meant to make it fire fighting, but they put the wrong, integer in. So we got a Fire Psychic, and it created everyone's waifu, which is a problem. But don't worry, they corrected the mistake, and Gen 7, of course, had another firefighting type. I know what you're saying. The game says it's Fire Dark. Point 1, it's wearing a fighter's belt. It's clearly fighting type. Point 2, have you ever tried using a psychic move on it? No, you haven't, because it'd be super effective. This is, again, one of those things the Illuminati is trying to hide from you. Emboar is firefighting. He's even in Smash.
A fighting game, and as we all know, all the Pokemon in Smash are fighting types. Therefore,
I remember how I was supposed to transition now, so we're just going to go to badges.
Gary has too many badges.
Gary, why do you have 10 badges? So Gary is the weighted companion cube badge from when he defeated GLaDOS, the Quill badge from when he defeated John Hancock, the Liberty Bell badge from when he defeated Ben Franklin. Really, what happened was Gary found Bill and Ted's time machine and used it to go back in time and kill the founding fathers and take their lapel pins.
Nice.
That's what happened here, and then he bought it all on Etsy.
Because the real Gen 1 badges look like this.
They're
and
great.
these are exemplars of simplistic, unconfusing badge design. The badge looks like the type that the gym leader specializes in, minimizing confusion. The boulder badge looks like a boulder. The water badge looks like a water. And the earth badge looks like a grass. 1-to-1 matchup, no confusion whatsoever.
Now,
It's perfect.
I'm going to give some credit to Gen 5 here. I know, rare. But the Gen 5 badges generally follow the same thing. We have the dragon that works as a flamethrower TM, the ox that lets you use strength outside of battle, and the dog lets you use recover, which is kind of weird, but I let it roll. Yes.
I think I fucked up the slideshow again.
These are the Jackie Chan Adventures talismans,
Yeah.
aren't they?
But
It
should be the next slide. I forgot to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here we have the sun, because we gotta let the sun shine in. We have the heart, because I hate all of you. And we have some good Christian imagery, because they were trying to cater my Pence with all the dragons. And it didn't work, and that's why we got fairy types. These Digimon signals, aren't they? Okay, here we have the Gen 5 badges. We have the Millennial Pyramid for grain storage, the Millennial Ankh for Ankh storage, and of course the Millennium Falcon for Falcon storage. These are the Millennium items and something from Star Wars, aren't they?
No.
Earth,
Fire!
wind,
Water! With
fire,
our powers combined, we are...
Embor.
Normally people interact with that one more. You're all disappointments.
It's really
You're
sad.
honorary Gen 5 Pokemon.
You're making Embor sad. Stop making Embor sad.
Okay, so here's a picture of my dad's toothpick collection. We have normal toothpick, Harry Potter erotica toothpick, and broken toothpick. I don't know why my dad collects toothpicks, it's kind of weird, but he's old and needs hobbies.
Speaking of hobbies, if there's anyone out there who's into writing, who likes looking into how to make a story that's structured correctly, you should know that you can't have a story without a central conflict. And similarly, you can't have a conflict without a flamboyantly clad evil villain team. You just can't. It's not possible. So in order to fully analyze why Gen 5 is garbage, we have to analyze all the villainous teams we've had in Pokemon across the generations. Starting, of course, with Team Rocket. The OG villain team, represent, even though we're on vacay, you know. Don't look behind the poster. We promise it's not a Switch. It's a PS4.
It's a Wii U.
It's a Wii U. Nobody wants that.
We both went for the joke.
But Team Rocket's great. They commit evil using Pokemon. Nothing's overly complicated about their ambitions. They run a successful casino, unlike Donald Trump. They take over Sylph Corporation, Kanto's primary employer, so they briefly become excellent job creators, again, unlike Donald Trump.
They
And
also, just like Donald Trump, hijacked an entire media organization.
That's true. They're also the closest thing to a functioning government that Kanto has, also unlike Donald Trump. So yeah, we're pretty clear on this. Team Rocket, they're great. They're so great they brought him back again for Generation 2 for the sequel, for the expansion pack, the Brood War Edition. But after that, you know, they decided it was getting a little bit stale. They couldn't just keep using Team Rocket again. So they decided to do something different, and they had two villainous teams for Generation 3, Teams Magma and Aqua. And, you know, it was going to be interesting. There are a bunch of eco-terrorists squabbling over some landscaping issues, you know, where to put the fruit tree and all that in the backyard. But when you get down to it, they suffer from basically being the exaggerated caricature that the other team thinks they are. You have Team Magma that wants to destroy the oceans using global warming. And you have Team Aqua who is somehow more wrong than that because they want to do the opposite of that and increase the amount of rain and flood Hoenn with more water. And if you haven't seen what Hoenn actually looks like, it has too much water, 7 out of 10 IGN. Next up, we've got Team Galactic.
Yeah, Team Galactic.
Shut the fuck up.
Team Galactic is where they started deciding, let's always make the teams into doomsday cults because that makes sense.
Yeah. No.
They want to recreate the universe because what the fuck does that even mean? How do you do that? Set some more reasonable ambitions. Because at the end of the day, if you want to repackage if you want to recreate the universe, you have to repackage the existing one back into a singularity, and it's not possible to fit 13.7 billion years of history into 36 bytes of data. You just can't do it.
Someone's trying.
That's right.
Team Galactic did.
No one gets the Steins Gate reference, which is okay because I didn't either.
I mean, if you haven't seen Steins Gate, fucking.
Then
watch
you're like
Steins
me.
Gate.
Moving on, Team Flare! I was excited for Team Flare because I thought they were just going to be Team Rocket with more stylish outfits, as you can see right there.
This is an actual in-game screen grab.
It's great. But then it turned out they weren't just flamboyant Team Rocket. They're also a doomsday cult. They wanted to turn French Stonehenge into a sky laser so they could Marty McFly their Pokemon back to the future. It doesn't make any sense. Much like many things in Gen 6, but at least it created Digimon, so that's great. And it was also partially redeemed in Gen 7 by Team Skull.
He's so cute.
There's nothing else you have to say about...
I just want to just scratch his chin. Good boy.
We don't have to say anything else about Team Skull. Easily the second best villainous team by Team Rocket. No contest. That's it. Next up, we have got Team Plasma, who is... basically just PETA, despite being more hypocritical, even more so, because they want to stop everyone from battling with Pokemon so Pokemon can live happily and in harmony, and they try to force everyone into doing so by battling them with Pokemon that they keep in Pokeballs. I don't know. This is depressing.
That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
But at least Nintendo realized that things have been going downhill as far as their villainous team goes. So when they re-released Sun and Moon for Sun and Moon Round 2 Electric Boogaloo, they also brought back Team Rocket in the form of Team Rainbow Rocket, the other Alolan form of Team Rocket. Giovanni breaks in and is like, you guys all suck, work for me, we'll get back together, start a casino, make a lot of money, it's going to be great, no more doomsday cults, fuck you. That's basically it.
What's the point of destroying the world?
Yeah.
If you want to run it instead. So now we're going to go over some serious subject matter. We've been avoiding this one, but let's be honest. Pokemon, especially Gen 5, has some issues with racism. And this is something that has never happened in Pokemon before, not once. But why would you do this to me?
That's not even the worst.
I was making a point.
It's not even the worst example, though.
Okay, so first we're going to go over the white version exclusive Pokemon. This is Lilligant. She is wearing a nice hoop skirt and a big flower hat. She is very reminiscent of a belle from the antebellum South. This is in comparison to the black version exclusive Pokemon, Cottony.
This isn't purely a joke. These are actually version exclusives for those games. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking.
Why? Okay. Next slide. Next, we have Lenora. Lenora is one of the gym leaders, and I know there's like not a huge amount of issues here outside of inexplicably Japan doesn't know how to draw black people without lips for some reason. Like if you look at anime, like any character that isn't black doesn't have lips, but black characters always have big lips because they take most of their cues from 1920s America for some goddamn reason.
Pretty much.
But otherwise,
she's a strong, independent woman.
No.
Gym leader.
This, however, is in comparison to the original art, which looks like an Aunt Jemima OC.
This is the censored American art.
Yes.
This is the original Japanese art.
God damn it. Okay.
Let's move on to
Yeah,
something.
we're white guys talking about racism.
Let's move on to something happier. Like the mythology. If you're interested in if you want to make your setting interesting, you don't just need a central conflict. You need to make sure that the lore surrounding your world you're creating is interesting enough to keep your audience hooked. And the problem is, Pokemon's lore is way too damn confusing at this point. You've got the unmoved mover up here. You've got a bunch of other bullshit in the middle, including people for some reason.
We're Pokemon. It's canon now.
Yeah. But more importantly, I mean, this is really
Can I
all
use
you need
cut
to know. No, shut
on
up,
my
Max.
wrists to get out of this.
This is in comparison with the much simpler to understand mythology of the family tree of the Greek gods, which looks more confusing initially until you realize it's basically just Zeus and incest all the way down, and that's all you need to remember, and it makes a lot more sense. Also making a lot more sense is the Jackie Chan Adventures mythology family tree right here. Up here, we have an unknown parent giving birth to Shendu, mortal enemy of Jackie Chan and his friends, who, with an unknown spouse who might be a sibling, because I've played far too much Crusader Kings to envision a couple that doesn't involve incest, giving birth to Draco, noted Jackie Chan Adventures antagonist.
Okay, so we have proven definitively that Gen 5 is trash, right?
It's not Pokemon.
It's not
we
Pokemon.
can all agree, right?
Okay. So now that we've
Let's
done that,
get
I
a
think-
woo woo. Yeah, not Pokemon.
So let's go over demands for the new Pokemon game to make sure Gen 5 never happens again. We have simple demands.
Yeah.
My first demand, I want Alolan forms for Gen 2. It doesn't have to be Alolan, they can be regional, but when it comes down to it, if you look at the OU competitive meta right now, not a single Gen 2 Pokemon is present, because for some reason, instead of ever paying attention to Gen 2, they just give a lot of love to Gens 1 and 3. So I want Gen 2 to come back and get some love. Alolan forms, I think Millennial Xatu would be amazing. Maybe remove the fedora.
Milady.
Sorry, Trilby, but I know that's like what you wear normally.
Demand number 2.
Yeah!
I want Nintendo to gather the Infinity Stones,
Yeah.
put on the glove, assume the power, snap their fingers, and remove all Generation 5 Pokemon, not just from Generation 8, but I want them to issue on the release of Gen 8 mandatory patches for all previous Pokemon games, removing Generation 5 Pokemon from all of them as well. I know this makes all the Gen 5 games unplayable because you can only catch Generation 5 Pokemon until you've initially beat the game, but that's just a win-win, because why would you want to play Gen 5? It's garbage.
It's racist.
Yeah, you know,
Okay.
come on, Thanos, snap that shit away.
Demand number 3. I'm sick of doing fire, water, grass starter triangles. We need something else. I know Gen 5 did dragon. But there's so many other. There's psychic, bug, poison, electric, water, ground. Or since we just genocided all of Gen 5, ghost.
But not dragon.
God, no.
Because we genocided
That's
all
unoriginal.
of Gen 5. Demand number 4. Starting with getting rid of all Generation 5 Pokemon is a good start, but that's not enough. We need to just stop using the number 5 in general. Not just in Pokemon, just as a society. Now, I understand that without 5, math stops working. And that's kind of important, so we're going to keep using something equivalent to 5. We just can't call it 5 anymore, because the number 5 is forever tainted by the existence of the black and white versions, and that's just not okay. It's current year, people.
Demand number 5. I know a lot of you. I'm out. I need the dongle. Okay, demand number 6. I know a lot of you have probably seen this image going around on the internet where they're going over all of the problems with Gen 1 and why it was a broken combat system. Well, we're proving it isn't. Gen 1 is the best, and these are not programming errors, but purposeful inclusions in the game. Things like the complaint that Leaf Seed tracks with Toxic so that damage multiplies over time. That's great. That was put in there so Leaf Seed remains competitively viable as the game continues. speed determining crits. That's a great idea too. Currently, speed is a winner-take-all stat. So suddenly, if it were tied to something else like critical hit rate, it would be worthwhile to actually pump in speed into already fast Pokemon, or actually bother putting speed in something like Nanolith. What's a good third one on here? I can't physically read this.
So the third one is that people complained that in Gen 1 Blizzard had 90% accuracy and that was overpowered. It's realistic though. Have you tried dodging a blizzard before? Try walking out in a snowstorm and neoing that shit. It's not going to work out for
I was
you.
in Colorado, it doesn't work. I was in my apartment and I couldn't dodge the blizzard.
It's not important. Yeah, or it is important, but it's not possible. Lastly, I want all of you. This is important. Each and every one of you. As soon as this panel's over, find whoever drew this and bring me their head on a pike. Because this is just not acceptable.
It was you, wasn't it? You fucking did it. You did it.
Yeah!
Fuck you.
You can't do this. I'm sorry. It's just...
Okay. We did it. We proved it, right? Fucking mic drop!
Woo! Woo!
Woo! Gift slow. Doesn't work. Okay. So, special thanks. We would like to thank Bulbapedia and MS Paint for making all this possible because Photoshop is for fucking casuals.
As long as you're willing to do things 1 pixel at a time, Paint can do it all.
Grimer's adorable. I'm really happy about that. We'd like to thank Nintendo and Game Freak for including Pokemon in all subsequent games.
Which is our opportunity to answer a probable frequently asked question. Are Gen 6 and 7 Pokemon? You've heard it from us, directly from us. Yes, they are Pokemon. We are withholding judgment on Gen 8 to see if any of our demands are met.
I mean, it's called Pokemon Sword, and there are already too many swords in Ultimate, so I'm kind of shaky. Finally, we'd like to thank John Rogers, Dwayne Capizzi, and Jeff Klein for creating Jackie Chan Adventures, a truly fine Japanese anime that made all of our lives complete.
We actually ran a poll. About this.
Poll.
We asked our Twitter followers whether or not Jackie Chan Adventures was an anime, and 100% of people responded either yes or yes. It is, in fact, an anime.
We had a lot of other polls, and people were giving bad information, like 30% thinking Girder Thing is better than Machamp.
Or that it's a Pokemon at all.
Yeah, so we realized that the only way to make sure that they picked the correct answer was to only offer it. Because they're illiterate morons. All of you are illiterate morons. Please follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on 5th Gen Not PKMN. We're also on YouTube at 5th Gen Is Not Pokemon. On that page, I have slowly uploaded most of the panels we've done. So if you enjoyed this panel or want to see other content we have done...
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, fuck you, first of all. Second of all, you can go onto our YouTube channel. It's all there. We've got Make Anime Great Again. Dubs better than subs. We all live in a Pokemon world. Harem Anime and you when I bother uploading it. What else do we have?
At Fanime, we're going to be... Are we allowed to talk about our Fanime panels?
Yeah, we have fucking 7 panels at Fanime.
Yeah. Including Waluigi tie.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, if you want to know about our Fanime panels or any other panels we're doing, you can follow us on Twitter. You can go to our YouTube. We have a Facebook page that is just 5th Gen Not PKMN, but words.
Yeah.
You can follow us there. We'll make events. It'll be great. You can shit post at us.
We love it when people shit post at us. Please send us memes.